Tales of Thorinis, Episode 10, The Ascension. The sun gleamed off Deus's freshly forged armor, casting dazzling reflections as he strode forward with purpose. His every step exuded confidence, though his mind wrestled with the weight of his decision. The monastery of the fire mages stood before him, its towering gates radiating a quiet reverence. This choice had not come easily, yet there was no hesitation in his heart. He was more certain of this than anything before. "I don't want to blindly follow orders anymore," he mused. "I need to understand what I'm fighting for." As the journey came to its end, Deus paused before the monastery gates, momentarily lost in thought. His presence did not go unnoticed. A young novice, Pedro, observed him with wide-eyed curiosity before stepping forward hesitantly. Can I help you with something?" Pedro inquired, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "The door stands open, warrior." Noticing the awkwardness of the moment, Deus gave the novice a respectful nod before crossing the threshold. The monastery's vast courtyard stretched before him, filled with the scent of burning incense and ancient parchment. He barely had time to take in the sacred surroundings when a familiar voice greeted him warmly. "Ah, Deus, how good it is to see you again," called out the mage Parlan, his long crimson robes flowing as he approached. "I see the city's forges have served you well. Tell me, what brings you here today?" Deus exhaled, composing his thoughts. "Oh dear, Parlan, I come with a dilemma. My team and I are about to set off for the mining valley, and I seek—" Before he could finish, Parlan raised a hand, cutting him off with a knowing smile. "I understand, Deus. Come, let us not waste time. I will help you." The mage led Deus through dimly lit corridors lined with glowing runes, eventually guiding him into his private chamber. Here, the air hummed with arcane energy, the weight of centuries of magic pressing upon the walls. Parlan moved with practiced grace, already preparing for the ritual. Deus hesitated. "But what do you mean? Shouldn't I be tested first? Prove my worth?" Parlan chuckled softly, placing a firm yet reassuring hand on Deus's shoulder. "Oh, Deus, you have already proven much. Have you so quickly forgotten your service? There is no need for further trials. Time is not on our side. You leave tomorrow. The ceremony must proceed swiftly." Deus swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of the moment settle over him. As the mage carefully etched the sacred symbol of the monastery upon his armor, uncertainty gnawed at him. What if I don't deserve this honor? What if the archmages refuse to accept me among the warforged mages? What if I'm making a mistake? Parlan's expression softened as he met Deus's troubled gaze. "Deus, what you are made of does not define who you are. What truly matters is what resides within." Deus glanced down, instinctively placing a hand over his chest. "You mean my core?" The mage nodded, his eyes filled with quiet wisdom. "In part, yes, your core, but also your heart, your choices, and your resolve. That is what makes you worthy." A long silence stretched between them as the words sank deep into Deus's soul. He clenched his fists, steadied his breathing, and lifted his gaze. He had made his decision. There was no turning back now. The surrounding area was permeated with the stench of decay, with rats scurrying around, beating each other up over the remains of rotten food. Favi stood leaning against an old building, waiting. Finally, a figure emerged from around the corner, as if from the mist. Covered in a filthy cloak, he strode toward Favi with a confident gait. Every now and then, the blades attached to his belt glinted from beneath his tarnished robes, peering out like hungry predators. "Favi, yes?" the masked man asked. "Yes. replied Farvi, his muscles tense, ready to fight at any moment. So what about Bosper's bow? What will the price be? A hefty one, replied the masked man, as you would expect, 1,000 gold pieces and a paladin's helmet. Farvi's eyes widened in disbelief. And how the fuck am I supposed to get something like that? He snapped irritably. The masked man merely chuckled. That's your problem, smartass. And you better hurry up. The boss doesn't like to be kept waiting. If, by some miracle, you succeed, meet me in the cave north of Lobart's farm. There, you will recover Bosper's toy. With that, their brief, tense exchange ended. The two figures disappeared into the night, each with their own intentions. You can't make it on your own, a gentle female voice echoed in Farvi's mind. His patron, Svinneron, already knew of his plan, and she knew too that he would not be sticking to the deal. Nyx lounged in the thieves' guild quarters, boredom settling over him like a heavy cloak as two of his friends made decisions that would shape their fates. He rocked back in his chair, the wood groaning under his weight, producing a creak so sharp it made Casca's eye twitch in irritation. Is there anything useful you can fucking do here? Casca snapped, exasperation evident in her voice. Nyx let out a dramatic sigh. I don't have any orders. I'm off to the mining valley tomorrow, after all, he replied, his tone dripping with boredom. Casca scoffed. I'm shocked by your arrogance. Aren't you going to prepare for this? What about your team? Why don't you go and bother them instead of sitting here irritating me with your laziness? Nyx grinned, stretching lazily. Okay, so be it, he said, rising from his rocking chair. As he passed Casca, he leaned in slightly, his voice low and mocking. I hope you'll miss me. With a smirk, he nudged the ink container just enough to make it wobble precariously before striding out of the room with his usual air of arrogance. Casca glared at his retreating form, her grip tightening around her pen. Oh, believe me, I can't wait for you to get back, she muttered under her breath. Nyx stepped out into the crowded streets, his eyes squinted against the insistent glare of the sun. Fuck, he whispered, shielding his face. I need to get out of this underworld more often. Night missions are bad for my eyes. Blinking away the brightness, he scanned the streets and soon spotted the fire mage Darkos. A sly grin spread across his face. Oh, hello, mage. Haven't seen my steel friend anywhere, have you? I swear he must be lurking about somewhere. Darko, slightly surprised to see Nyx, replied, Obviously, Deus has set off to the monastery to celebrate the vows of a novice fire mage. Nyx's eyes widened. Then, quickly regaining his composure, he cleared his throat. No, of course. Good for him. I don't suppose anyone would be upset if I paid a visit now. Without waiting for an answer, he turned and walked off towards the monastery. Darkos watched him go, his expression unreadable. May the burden you carry not drag you too deep, Nyx. The gentle sounds of bells catching in the wind broke the silence that reigned in the square. Deus stood proudly in the middle of the square, surrounded by dozens of novices. Some looked on in disbelief, some with admiration in their eyes, others with pride that a new member was joining their order, and still others with envy. A warforged on the path to becoming a mage, such a thing was unheard of. The world had gone mad. Whispers slithered through the gathered crowd, but they were quickly silenced by the loud thump of the cathedral's main doors swinging open. A hush fell over the square as Pyrokar, the head of the church, stepped forward, his crimson robes billowing in the wind. Let us begin the ceremony, he proclaimed, his voice steady and commanding. The mages took their places around Deus, forming a perfect circle. They grasped each other's hands, and the air grew heavy with power. The wind picked up, swirling around them, and an invisible force pulsed through the square like a heartbeat. Then from beyond the church walls, an argument erupted. Muffled shouting filtered through the thick stone, the voice unmistakably belonging to the novice Pedro. He was yelling at someone, but the walls muffled his words into an unintelligible blur. The disturbance sent a ripple through the gathered mages, some shifting uncomfortably, others glancing toward the source of the commotion. Parlan, sensing the growing tension, released his grip from the circle and turned toward the church. His expression remained calm, but his movements were deliberate. Without a word, he strode toward the entrance, determined to uncover the cause of the disruption before it could derail the sacred rites. Chaos reigned in Nyx's head, his body possessed by the unknown power of the blades hanging at his side without registering the damage they had done to him. With a slow step, he approached Pedro, who was guarding the gate, while the red-hot blades slowly delved into Nyx's hips, as if they didn't want to get any closer to the sacred place. But the young elf pushed forward, as if in hypnosis, whispering under his breath, "I just want to see my friend." Pedro was getting more and more stressed by the second, and drops of sweat began to drip down his forehead as he began to cast his fireball spell. "One more step, and you'll regret it, demon." "Go away!" shouted Pedro, visibly not wanting to take the life of such a young person. In his entire career as a novice, he had never been forced to use magic against a living being. Just as Pedro was about to release the spell from his hands, the mage Parlan ran in between them. What on earth is going on here? He showed his hand to the young novice to stop casting the spell. Then, looking at Nyx, almost standing already in flames, he whispered, "Poor soul, what is happening to you?" From Nyx, apart from the sizzle, one could hear, "I want to see Deus." The Deus ceremony was coming to an end, but Warforged could not chase away the growing sense of danger. Just as Archmagus Pyrokar was reciting the final words crowning the entire ceremony, Deus sprang to his feet. "Wait!" he shouted in a metallic voice. "Something is wrong here. Doesn't anyone feel it?" A slight chaos ensued among the novices gathering around, for the interrupted ceremony gave a small window of silence through which shouts could be heard from behind the walls. A ripple of unease spread through the onlookers, their heads turning toward the disturbance. Deus immediately made his way through the crowd, his heavy steps echoing off the stone floor as he pushed forward, straight to the source of all the commotion. His mind raced. Was this merely a coincidence, or was something far more sinister at play? The air grew thick with tension, the weight of the moment pressing on his newly anointed shoulders. Whatever awaited him beyond those walls, he knew one thing for certain: he had to face it head on.